If your best friend or significant other was to describe you, would they say that you are, number 1, direct to the point, number 2, social and outgoing, number 3, steady and dependable, or number 4, cautious and perfectly accurate? And you can only choose one. So where are my ones in the room? My number 2s? 3s? How about 4s? Awesome. Well, there'll be a little bit for everybody here today. So the problem is that everybody thinks that we all communicate the same way. Right now, I want you just to imagine a time that you've had a misunderstanding with a client, a referral partner, maybe a spouse or a family member, and you walked away from that encounter and thought, whew, what language are they speaking? Well, in reality, we all speak our own individual language called DISC. Most of us were taught wrong. Follow the golden rule. Treat others like you want to be treated. Well, when you treat other people like you want to be treated, what happens is huge misunderstandings, lost revenue, lost referrals, lost friendships, and potentially even divorces. So today, what I hope you leave with is a really good understanding of DISC, some of the do's and don'ts for communicating with others, what's important to each of the styles, and how to adapt your style for win-win communication. So what is DISC? Well, DISC is the observable language of communication. It's the how behind the things that we do. When you get really good at the language, you will be able to kind of sit back and watch people and begin to kind of understand and see kind of what their mannerisms are. And because we all prefer to communicate typically in one or two of the different styles. A person's style doesn't make them right or wrong, good or bad. We just are who we are, and accepting who we are and others for who they are and how they communicate is really, really important. So what DISC or behaviors is not, well, it's actually not a personality test. It's not training, it's not motivation, it's not skills, it's none of that. So what does it stand for? So first of all, we are all made up of all 4 of these characteristics. So the D stands for dominance. It's how we solve problems and challenges. The I is influence. It's how we influence other people to our point of view. The S is steadiness. It's the pace of the environment that we prefer. And then the C is compliance. It's rules and procedures that are set by other people. There are no right or wrong styles. We are just who we are, and each style is needed and wins in their own unique way. So when you look at it, the D and the C, they're task-orientated. The D and the I are both extroverted. The I and the S, they're both people-orientated. And then the S and the C are both introverted. Kind of an interesting story. My son Dakota is my videographer, and he's here back in the room taking pictures. We actually drove in from Kansas City, and we get here after an 8-hour drive, and we went to the Walmart here. And after being at Walmart, extroverted, D, introverted S, he's like, I'm ready to go home. I said, to Kansas City? Yes. So this is kind of what a graph would look like. And just to be clear, when you do the assessment, I'm gonna just tell you like kind of what your rankings are. You're not necessarily gonna get all of this. You need to take it scientifically based one to get the full deal. But this is what they look like. And your natural style is who you are when nobody's watching. So just when you're being yourself and you're at home and you're just relaxed. But your adapted style is who you are like at work, and we all have the ability to adapt into any style at any time. And most of us are adapting at some point naturally. The point of learning the language is so that you are strategically adapting to create more win-win relationships quicker, so that you are making people more comfortable, and never to manipulate or to pigeonhole or to label people. It's just to increase your relationships. And so when you look at a graph, the primary style is the style that is furthest from the energy line. And the energy line is at 50. And so in this example, the C is actually the primary style of this graph. But there are a lot of styles that are actually low. So somebody earlier was saying that nobody ever really explained to her what the D was or the I was. They just said, oh, you're a high D or a high I. And that is really kind of a lot of what the feedback I've had over the years of teaching this. And that is really wrong, right? You know, hey, you're a high D, you're a high I. Well, what does that mean? Well, I hope today that you really leave learning and understanding more of what that does mean. So a little bit about my story. I've actually been in sales since about this age. I started selling sunglasses and ninja stars at flea markets. Most of my 20s, I was tending bar, and then one day I decided I wanted to get into finance when I was about 28, and I talked somebody at a car dealership into giving me a chance. I answered an F&I ad and said, hey, I think I could sell F&I, why don't you hire me? And he did. He said, you sell cars for me for 3 months, and I'll give you an opportunity. And he did, and I was top sales right away, and actually was really good in F&I and finance and insurance, and took their department to the next level. But car business is a lot of hours, so I got into mortgage, then had my first child, got married, did closing documents for a mortgage company, had a bar and grill at the Lake of the Ozarks. I'm Heidi, overachiever. Had my second child in 2008, and we all know what happened in 2008, right? My closing document business kind of crashed at the same time, and decided at that time to go out and be one of those unorganized loan officers that were driving me crazy. And I met Michael Mayer at a networking event, and at the same time he was writing this book. I don't know who in here is familiar with the 7 levels of communication. And was mentored by him, and after 3 years was top 10 in my company. So that was the beginning of 2012, and as life would have it, later on that year, my husband would die suddenly. So I would be pretty lost and unsure of what was next. And I would lean into some life coaching, and I would start doing Sandler sales training. So even though I had been in sales all those years, I had never really had any professional training. I didn't go to college. And so that's when I first started learning the stuff that I'm going to teach you today. So I've been studying this for about 6 years at this point. several different certifications. Last year I was on the cover of Referral magazine, and I am really, really honored and privileged to be here with you guys today. Thank you. Let's jump in. So your D. The challenge with starting with the D, but it just makes sense, is some of the D's in the room might get a little upset because some of the words can get a little aggressive and demanding, and that's how the D can sometimes be and be perceived. But honestly, they're some of the biggest, kindest-hearted people. Their brain just works very directly and in a direct manner. And if you begin to realize that the communication style of each unique person is just how they communicate and not a reflection of their true personality and their value, then you're going to be able to accept people on a different level. So the D loves confrontation. They love adventure. They're competitive. They are decisive. The higher they are on the spectrum, the more they tend to be these words. And then the low D, they're slow to anger. They dislike confrontation. And they might be more apt to use humor. And remember, this is how they how we all solve problems and challenges. And so the low D is more cautious and agreeable. So the dominant director, their value to the organization is they are bottom line organizers. They are forward looking, and they're challenge oriented. They initiate activity. They move a team forward. And their ideal environment is freedom from control. They don't like to be controlled. They like to be in control. And they don't like routine work. And they like challenges and opportunity. They're innovative and futuristic. Now, some of their possible limitations are they could overuse their position, they could set their standards too high for the team, and they could lack tact. And some of them have a tendency to take on too much too fast and can lose control in the process, especially if they don't have a good support team behind them. Under extreme stress, they can be demanding, argumentative, opinionated, aggressive, and egotistical. Now let me tell you, the first time that I took this, well, it wasn't the first time, because the first time I took this, I was actually a high I. After my husband died, I became a high D. And technically, they say that this is established in your youth, but it only changes with life-changing events. So the first time I took it afterwards, I was like, no, I'm not like that. But under stress, yes, I can definitely be like that. Oh, I didn't. So the D's biggest fear is being taken advantage of, and definitely under stress, their emotion is anger. Very quick to be angry. So if you think about, and for you D's in the room, and for everybody working with D's, and somebody calls you and they're all like, ah! Just let them vent. Once it's out, it's out. With the D, it's never personal. They just need to get it out and off their chest. So a greeting might sound like this. Hey, I only have about 5 minutes. How can you help me? This is your client. In gestures, it might be pointing, lots of hand movements. Their voicemail, this is Tammy, leave a brief message. Emails, you may have written a book to them, given them some different attachments, and they're like, yep, all in bold caps, no greeting, no personalization, none of that. So some ways to communicate with them: be brief, clear, specific, and to the point. Stick to business. Present your facts logically, and be prepared with support material in a nice packet. Now, don't go over the packet with them. They don't really want that. Just give it to them, let them ask you questions if they have the question. Let them take the lead. Ways to not communicate: don't talk about things that are not relevant to the issue. Don't leave loopholes or cloud the issue, and don't appear disorganized or messy. And don't force them into a losing situation. You need to let the D win. Even if you're a D, don't get into a confrontation with them. Let the D win, because when the D wins, you win. Some famous high directors. Okay, so think about Barbara Walters. The Barbara Walters special was on forever, right? And she had all of these celebrities on there and asked the tough questions. But everybody wanted to be on that show. Any questions on the D? Okay, now let's talk about a more fun subject, the high I, right? The I's, they're charming, and they are the life of the parties. So how about my I's in here? Can you swirl around your twos? Woo! So the I's biggest fear is loss of social recognition, and their emotion is optimism. And the higher they are on the spectrum, again, the more they're gonna seem like these words, where the low I is more pessimistic and skeptical and worrisome, critical, moody. And so high trust, low trust. And the high I is charming and confident, and also uses a lot of hand movements. So the inspiring influencer, their value to the organization is they're optimistic and enthusiastic. They're creative problem solvers. They motivate the team towards a goal. And they negotiate conflict. They don't want anybody to be mad at each other. They are really good at solving problems and making sure that everybody is getting along. And their ideal environment is a lot of people contact. You don't want to have a high I that's an accountant. That is not a great fit. They also need freedom from control because they are extroverted and they need to be able to do things at their own will, their own pace. They like to have their ideas heard, and so you need to let them talk as your clients and listen to them. Freedom of movement. Some of their possible limitation is inattentive to details, unrealistic in appraising people. You got to pre-qual them a little bit better. Make sure that you're listening to what your buyers are saying, what your clients are saying. Trust people indiscriminatively, and they can be situational listeners. Under extreme stress, self-promoting, overly optimistic, Gabby, and unrealistic. Did you have a question?
Yeah, the situational listener, would you explain
they can tend to, because their brains move really quickly, when you're talking to them, they're thinking about the next thing that they want to say instead of really listening to people. So everybody needs to learn to really listen to people. So the greeting might sound a little bit like this. I love your shoes. Now, don't you know Susan? Isn't she the best? Their gestures are always smiling and laughing. They love to smile and have fun. Their voice now will sound a little bit like this. Hi, it's Tammy. I'm so sorry I missed you. Have a great day. What'd you say? Their emails will always have a personal greeting, lots of exclamation points, emojis, and they will always sign it. Best wishes, have a great weekend, have an amazing day, things like that. Ways to communicate with the I: provide a warm and friendly environment, allow time for socializing, don't deal with a lot of details in writing, in person. Make sure instead you put those to them in writing. And ask a lot of feeling questions. How are you feeling about this house? And remember, they love to have fun, so make sure that you're giving them a fun experience. Ways to not communicate with them: don't be cold or curt or tight-lipped. Don't control the conversation, and don't leave discussions up in the air. Don't drive on facts and figures. So some famous high eyes, well, think about Oprah or the Blaze Girls. You get a car, you get a car, you get a shirt, you get a shirt. Right? Does anybody have any questions on the eyes?
They're all fabulous.
They are fabulous. The eyes are fun. They love to have fun. They're gonna make everybody happy. It's good. It's good to have some eyes around. Just making sure that as an eye that you're listening, and when you have eye clients that you're listening. So the S's. The S's are consistent, non-expressive, relaxed, resistant to change, passive, and patient, where the low S is more emotional, expressive, impulsive, and flexible. So the S's biggest fear is losing security, and their emotion is non-emotional. And so I don't want you to be confused with that, because non-emotional is not true. They actually are very emotional. You're just never going to know it. They have a poker face, and you're not going to be able to read them. So when they're scorekeepers, and you're going to say something to them, and they're going to have this poker face, and they're going to be upset with you, but you're never going to know it. So your S's, actually, you should work on that. I know it's your style, but people need to know when they upset you. So then one day you've used up all of those notches, and you've lost a friend or a client. So something to be aware of with the style, because the other styles can really be, especially the D and the I, can be really hard on the S's. Their value to the organization: they're dependable team players, and they like to work for a leader with a cause. They're patient and empathetic, and they're logical, stepwise thinkers. They're service-orientated, and their ideal environment is stable. They need allowed time for change. So don't be going to them with your next emergency and expect them to drop everything they're doing and work on your emergency. They need time to process it. And you wouldn't do that anyway, because the S's do their best work whenever you give them time to process it. They need little conflict between people and freedom from restrictive rules. Some possible limitations would be they like to avoid controversy, so you don't know what they're thinking, right? And they have difficulty in establishing priorities. So you may need to help them and let them know what's most important to you if you have them on a team. They dislike unwarranted change, so they will change, but they need to know why, and you need to give them time to change. And then they have difficulty with diverse situations. Their tendency under stress is kind of to shut down and be non-demonstrative, unconcerned, hesitant, and inflexible. So ways to recognize them. I'm Tammy. Nice to meet you. And then they're just gonna wait for you to introduce yourself. Very limited gestures or display of emotions. Voicemail. This is Tammy. Sorry I wasn't available to take your call. Please leave your name, telephone number, and a message, and I'll get back with you. Their emails are going to be very thought out, because they would never ever want to hurt somebody's feelings. They're very considerate people. And so if they're upset with somebody, they may have numerous drafts in their email box and have rewritten it several times before they send it out. Some ways to communicate with them. Begin with a personal comment. Patiently draw out their goals. Listen to them. If they bring something up and start talking to you about something, it's because they have something to say. And their intuition is really good, so you're gonna wanna hear them, especially if they're on your team or a family member. Present your case softly in non-threatening ways. And then ask them how questions. How do you think that would work? Make sure you get little yeses along the way, because your S's are your buyers that say, yeah, I want that house, and then never pick up your phone call again. So, ways to not communicate. Don't rush headlong into business. They do like a little bit of socialization, first personal comments, but not a lot. Remember, they are introverted. Don't make promises that you can't keep. And don't be domineering or demanding. And don't interrupt them as they speak. Don't force them quickly to respond to your needs. So some famous steady relators. Has anybody seen the Fred Rogers movie? So those of you that haven't, I had no idea. When I was a kid and I watched this, I really just liked the train that went to the little town and stuff, but like he really went above and beyond to help this guy that was really having a hard time in his life. And as you can see from, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, these are really good people. So your C's. They are, the high C is passive and the low C is active. And so the high C is detail-orientated, analytical, and can be very worrisome, careful, and critical. Where your low C is very careless with details, guilty, unbending, unsystematic, and uninhibited. The high C's biggest fear is making mistakes, and their emotion is fear. So the analytical compliant, their value to the organization, well, they are conscientious and steady. They define, clarify, and research, and they're comprehensive problem solvers. They like to maintain high standards, and they are the anchor of reality, sometimes painfully. And they're very objective. Their ideal environment is anywhere that critical thinking is needed. So this is where your accountant should be. This is where you should have somebody that is doing like your paperwork. This is underwriters. This is processors. Really good detailed processors are typically C's and S's. Some possible, so they like technical or specialty work. They need their own offices. If you have them on your team, they shouldn't be technically out with a bunch of people. Typically, unless they have a lot of I in them, they need their own space in order to do their best work. And some possible limitations is they tend to be defensive when they're criticized, and they can get bogged down in the details. They suffer from some analysis paralysis. And they can appear aloof and cool. And under extreme stress they can be pessimistic, fussy, critical, overly critical. So in their greeting, it might sound a little bit like this. Hi, I'm Tammy. Do you have your data? How should we proceed? How much time have you allowed? In gestures, they might be giving you a critical look over their glasses. They're watching you, making sure that you are doing what you say. They don't really know yet if they can trust you. Their voicemail will sound a little bit like this. This is Tammy. Today is March 11th. I will be in the office from 9 to 11. After that time, you can contact Dakota at. And they'll change it every day for accuracy. The C is all about accuracy. Their emails are going to be long and detailed with bullet points and attachments. The D's going to get it and delete it. It's way too long for them. So some ways to communicate. Prepare your case in advance. Stick to business. Approach them in a straightforward, direct way. They are also very direct, so having a packet of materials and presenting to them would be good. Be accurate and realistic. Don't invade their personal space. So you guys, keep your hands to yourself. They don't want to be touched. Actually, the D's don't typically want to be touched either, until you build a little bit of a bond with them. Ways to not communicate: don't be giddy or casual, and don't push too hard or be unrealistic with your goals. Make sure you're setting accurate dates and time frames and letting them know what is going to happen along the process. And don't be disorganized or messy, and don't overpromise results. And remember, in real estate, everybody's inner C comes out a little bit when people are spending the money to buy a house. So some famous compliance. Bill Gates sold his first program at like 17 for like $3,800. Questions? All right, so what does each style need? So the D needs loyalty, sense of control, appreciation, and credit for their work. Don't take credit for the D's work. The I needs approval, acceptance, attention, and affection. The S needs harmony, feeling of work, lack of stress, and respect. And the C needs safety, sensitivity, support, and some silence. So when you look at a wheel, which if you take a scientific assessment, which I offer through my company, you get a wheel. It's kind of hard. Maybe you can see it pretty good, but we're all a blend of everything, and which I think is so cool, right? Is we're not one thing, we're everything. But most people tend to do their hiring or work with clients typically that are similar to them. What learning the language actually will do for you is will give you access to working with people that are a little more diverse than you are. But as you can see, like the persuader is more fast action, direct. So they're kind of a blend of the D and the I. And the implementer is task orientated. And so that's the C and D. And the coordinator, it's my son. So we're opposites. I'm going to show you what our thing looks like in just a second, but they're more slow acting, low risk. And where your relator down below is more people orientated. So the values to the team: thinking and implementing ideas, getting results through people. The I, promoting ideas, promoting and implementing ideas, implementing a plan, implementing and fine-tuning a plan, and then connecting the plan together. So that's why as you grow your real estate team, having people that are opposite of you at first is important. You don't want to do a hire that's exactly like you, or neither one of you are going to do the tasks that you don't want to do. And then filling in some different blanks as you grow. And so this is actually my graph and then my son's graph. And if you think about DISC is above the iceberg, above the water, and then our values, that's below the water. And so I just wanted to touch on this just a little bit. I think that that's a really good visual. DISC lets you kind of see how people are communicating, but their values and what is really important to them is what's under the surface. So if you imagine, for me, learning the language was really important. For him being my opposite, he says, oh, it's fine. You still sometimes stress me out. And it's not even how you're communicating with me. It's just when you get mad, it still stresses me out. And it's not that I get mad and I'm mad at him, but when I get mad, I'm mad, right? And that's stressful to his communication style. And I could be mad at somebody else, and it's not even reflected at him, but I'm venting, and he's like, so just something to be aware of with the SC style, or the S style, is that conflict can really stress them. Okay, so a little bit of interaction. Who do you think, which style do you think is more apt to play football? D. Yep. How about bowling? C. So think for the C, anything that they can perfect. Think accuracy. So bowling, they're working towards getting that perfect score. How about soccer? D. Yep. Volleyball. Yeah. Track? Track could be the I or the S. The I because you run for 30 seconds and then you get to socialize for 5 hours. Chess. Cheerleading. And then jogging. Yeah. And so office decor. Who do you think is going to have calendars in their office with X's through them? Yeah. Trophies. The D, yeah. Some of the I's might too. I mean, we're a blend. Friends, and then family. Okay, so all 4 of the girls from Sex and the City are a different communication style. So what do you think, has everybody's, probably not everybody, that would be totally a D quality. Everybody has done this, right? Everybody knows. So those of you that have seen this show can answer. How about Charlotte? What do you think Charlotte is? Yes. Miranda? Carrie? And Samantha? Okay. So why do we need each other? Right? We do. So with the D, results and efficiency is important to the D. They need the I to promote and sell their ideas. They need the S to implement and to follow through. And the C to do the research and handle the details. The I is about the experience, relationships, and having fun. Being liked is important to them. So they need the D to make the hard decisions so they don't have to be the bad guy. And they need the S to follow through and implement. And they need the C to make sure that everything is right so that they look good. And the S is about security, time to think, complete tasks are important to them. So why do they need the other styles? Well, they need the D to make quick decisions and help speed them along, not too quickly, but help speed them along a little bit. And they need the C to hold everybody accountable to the rules and procedures. And they need the I to sell the ideas and promote their ideas. And then the C, information and rules are important to them, accuracy. So why do they need the other styles? Well, they need the D to make the quick decisions because they suffer from analysis paralysis. And they need the I to sell their ideas to the team or to others. And the S to calmly play the buffer. So how do the other styles frustrate them? Well, again, D results in efficiency. Well, the I gets sidetracked in side conversations, and that really is frustrating to the D. And the S, well, they don't know what they're feeling, and they need too much time to think, and they move too slowly. And the C asks way too many questions and has too much data. And the I is about experience and relationships. So how do the other styles frustrate the I? Well, the D is brutally honest and not really afraid to hurt feelings. And well, the S, they don't know what they're feeling or thinking. And the C criticizes anything that is not perfectly and accurate.
I would challenge that is, it's not that we don't know, it's that we don't want to share it.
Well, the I doesn't know. Maybe I should change that. It doesn't share. That's a good thing. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yay! Yay! Yes. Yes. So the S is about security and time to think. So how do the other styles frustrate the S? Well, the D keeps changing their mind, giving them more work to do, right? My son's like, yes. The C asks for way too much detail, and the I waste too much time talking about personal things, so they can't get all their work done. And the C, information and rules, perfection is important to them. So how do the other styles frustrate the C? Well, the D goes with their gut. They are not afraid to fail. The I is overly emotional and doesn't have all of the details. And the S is withholding of information and doesn't always share the information needed. So knowing yourself as a salesperson. So the D, you're results orientated. You want to close fast. You can be argumentative and may try to overpower the person. You like to win, and you may not follow up as effectively as you should. You may be unprepared, and you can handle several customers at once. Make sure that your customers all feel heard at the same time. The I. You're social. You may lack attention to details. You may overpromise because you want to be liked. You could be too talkative, and you may close too slowly or not at all. You may forget to close. You're very enthusiastic. And you'll have a wordy, but maybe non-logical presentation. So systems and structure, practicing that is really important. The S. The S is a natural salesperson. They're easy to get along with. They're steady and dependable, but they can get easily discouraged and can have low confidence. They're great on follow-through. They can tend to overservice an account. They may give away money under pressure, and they could need more enthusiasm throughout the process. They may overuse facts and may wait too long to close. So your C, they know their data. They may overuse that data. They need more enthusiasm. They could have trouble selling products that are beneath their own standards. They're very organized. They give great service, and they suffer from analysis paralysis. So let's review. So your dominant driver, they're problem solvers. Extroverted, results orientated. You want to be organized. Stick to business. Stay on topic. Don't leave loopholes. Be clear, specific, brief, and to the point. Your influencers. They're extroverted, people-oriented, provide a warm and friendly environment. Housewarming parties are great for the eyes. They are about the experience. Don't be cold, curt, or tight-lipped, and put details in writing to them. Don't drive on facts. Don't control the conversation. So your steady relators, pace of the environment, they're introverted. They're looking for security. Poker face, it's gonna be harder to read them. Start with a personal comment. Don't force them to respond quickly. They need time to think, process, and ask how questions to draw them out. And your C, client, they're about rules and procedures. So they're introverted, they're looking for information, and you need to be very prepared with them. Stick to business, don't touch them. Be accurate and realistic. Don't be giddy, casual, or informal. Thank you.